I heard the notification. Recording in progress. All right. A couple things before we get started. First of all, take very good. I've got a couple important announcements at the end, so don't go away. I'm not going to play the whole song first. I'm going to go through the song because it actually is a long medley, so I don't want you to have to hear it 3-4 times. So I'm going to go through the song, the setups, what have you, and at the very end, I'll play it all the way through in its entirety, okay? But real quick, I've been working on typing up the notes. I'm going to encourage you to take very good notes, all right? The setups I'm going to give you during this class are going to be basic setups, because did you all print out the music, I hope?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
It was in the email. It was in the email, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
9 pages.
9 pages, but there are, I think, about 15 presets.
Wow.
So what I'm not going to do is give you the nitty-gritty details in the class. We'll be here forever. But I'm going to give you the basic setup that I'm using for each one, and I'll give you some clues of where to find some of these in the instruments and where, I set it up. Most importantly, there are about 3 or 4 things that I'm going to mention today. Obviously, the rhythm that I'm using for the song, the tempo, and if I fail to do that, holler at me. If I start the next song and the setup, just say, hey, what's the tempo or the rhythm? And then I'm going to give you the accompaniment setups. That to me is the most important. What I mean by that is that I have alter style on, drum variation, that sort of thing. And then the melody sound, the main melody sound. The reason why I say I'm going to give you the basic, because some people have big organs, some have small, some have medium. And I want to give a setup that virtually most instrument people can do on their instrument. All right, so as you can see, the music that I gave is a big band medley, and I thought, big band music, it's big and happy, and this might be a little bit before your time, in some cases, right? Most cases, this is all before your time. So I thought big band music is great right before the New Year, for New Year's Eve. And you'll notice that I have all sorts of presets and setups. Okay, let me skim. Whoa, there we go. Little Brown Jug. You'll see that there's a setup A1 and A2. So I'll tell you what I did to program my setups. Okay? Most of these setups are actually built into the organ. It was about how I organized them, so I wouldn't have to constantly go back and forth. So most of the setups that you hear today, I basically just took what was already there and I just organized them and saved them. Now, if you're not sure how to save presets yet, we've been talking about a lot lately in our classes online. I've been posting these quick tips. I forget what I call it, but it's like a quick setup tip on how to save presets. So get in the habit of doing that, because once you get comfortable with that, this is going to become important. So I'm not going to keep the music up, but if you have your music in front of you, I'll just kind of give you the order how I played the song. Now, this isn't exact science either. You're going to notice when I get to like All of Me, the way I instruct it may not be the way I play it, because I gave in a variety of sounds to give you a little bit of freedom to play it how you want. In other words, you don't have to play the trombone here and the clarinet here. And you can play trombone and switch around to a clarinet. You can bounce it around however you like. Okay? So
question, Robert.
Yeah.
What book are these songs in? Because I didn't have an email from you telling us what book these are in.
They're not in a book. In the email that I sent out today, I put a little button that said, click here for today's music.
Oh.
And if you click on that button, you'll be able to access the music. Did you get the email today about the class?
Yes, I did.
All right, if you
I
look
don't
in that email, it'll say click here, to get online, and then there was a button next to it that said click here for today's class music.
Oh, I didn't understand that's what that meant. Okay.
Yeah, if you click
I
on
got it.
there, it'll open up a link to download the music because there were so many songs, the file was too big to upload it, so I had to generate a link. All right, so you
I
can
did not
access
get
it.
that email either, so I don't have your music.
It worked well for me. It did
What's
work
that?
well, Robert.
What?
It worked well for me up here in Canada.
All right. Well, you can email
Yeah,
me
I
and I
only-
can send it to you, and it'll be available on Patreon. At the end of the class, I will tell you how you can access that music. Okay, a couple ways. So,
I look
Little Brown
forward to
Jug, by the way, wasn't Glenn Miller's favorite song, from what I understand. I don't know the history, but I heard this wasn't one of his favorite. I think his wife actually enjoyed the song, so he played it and dedicated it to her a couple times. But you'll
Okay.
see setup 1 and 2. I'm not going to spend time right now, too much time on this. I'm just going to go through. Now, I'm going to play the song in the key of C because that's the way I learned it. The music is in G. That's how this copy is.
Transpose.
And that's okay.
I just transpose.
Well,
1, 2, 3,
I
4,
would
5.
I would not use it. I would not use the transpose
Oh,
if
no?
I were you. I would just play it in the key that you see it. It'll sound funny. And then you've got, and I'll go through and I'll be referencing these numbers.
I transpose an organ, but I don't. I don't transpose my key. I'm playing.
And then if you go to Moonlight Serenade, you'll see it's another
Oh,
key.
come on, Roman, step up the plate here.
Yeah. So do yourself a favor. Do not
Moonlight
use,
Serenade. Oh, look at that. He's got Moonlight Serenade there.
yeah. Do yourself a favor. Do not use the transpose.
And do not interrupt him either.
Or you could do that too.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's all good. Do not use the transpose because these songs are already in different keys. If you start trying to use the built-in transposer, it's going to sound funny. Okay? So just play it as you see it. It's going to be okay. All right? And I have it going all the way through the very end. I'm going to give you some setups now. Now, let's start at the very beginning of the song. Are you ready? Say yes. Yes. Robert, everybody said yes. Let me put my phone on airplane mode here in case it rings. It won't get disrupted. Okay. So, for starters, the first setup that I used was a style that most organs have. It's a big band type of style, of course. Okay. And the rhythm style that I'm using is a style that's been around forever called swing band. It's usually found on the big band button. If you don't have a swing band rhythm style for some reason, life cannot continue on without it. You have to call us right away to solve the problem. Okay, that was my 3-second joke. But if you do not, find a big band style that you enjoy. A common one that's an alternative that's commonly used is one called Franken the Count. All right, but we're going to come around to that rhythm again. So the style that he uses is swing band. Now, when you put on swing band, when you initially put it on, it usually comes up at a tempo of 138. Well, the beauty is the first song, Little Brown Jug, I am actually doing in 138. Okay? The tempo that it comes up to. So what I did when I programmed A1 on my preset, here's all I did. Are you ready? This one's an easy one. Put on swing band, put on rhythm preset, or style setup vintage if you have the EY or EX. The style setup vintage is the same setup. And when you get that setup, it'll automatically put on the upper keyboard saxophones with a harmony. Okay? So the first setup is actually pretty easy. Swing band, tempo of 138, which comes up automatically if you put on that style. You want some saxophones with a harmony. All right. Now, the other thing that I did, if you can, is I transposed it down to B flat for starters. If you don't, it's okay. But that's what I did. And this is probably the most important part of this setup, if you have it. Okay? And a lot of you have a button that says alter style. So when you put on swing band, this is what it normally sounds like with your introduction one. Hear that? Now if you put on alter style, listen to it. I always love doing that. I had my fun for the day. So it does those, those, and it just does it automatically. And then you just play the song. No matter how you do it. All right, and then I play that through like the music says. I might play it one time through or twice, however many times you want. It's like a one page and easy play music. All right, and then what I do is partway after I go to the second setup, everything's the same except for the sound that I have on the upper keyboard. Are you ready? Now let's see if we can guess the sound. Let's see if I can do this standing up here. I got people watching here and there. Oh, I gotta have fun sometimes, right? Oh my goodness. All right, so I play it one time through a little bit and then oh, Robert, you may ask, Robert, what did you do?
Robert, what did you do?
I'm glad you asked. We could have been here for a while if nobody asked.
Doo-wop.
We had someone
Doo-wop.
there and here ask, and I was like, waiting. Okay. Well, I used on the upper keyboard. What sound? Any guesses?
Doo-wop.
Well, it's a doo-wop sound, but the
Scat.
voice that was actually scat, and she said scat, but you're close. You're almost there. All right, let me pull it up on the screen and then say it because I want to give you the right. Put it on there. Okay, that's what I thought. So in the Lowry organs, most of them, I think, there is a voice. You have one that's called scat. That came around back in 2001. And it was basically, it did a scat voice. However, they introduced a new one along the way when the Prestige was introduced. And it was a sound called scat, Doobah, D-O-O-B-A-H, and then in parentheses, DAO, D-A-O. Now, here's why they called it that, all right? If you do not have the touch feature or the dynamic feature on, so a lot of you have a feature called dynamic keying, and a lot of you have a feature called touch, depending on the model you have. That's when you hit the notes a little harder or softer. If you have a piano, you can play it harder or soft. If that feature is off, and I play these notes, you hear it just going doo-ba, doo-ba, no matter how hard I hit it. Now, it sounds okay, it sounds good, but it just does the same two things over and over. Watch what happens when I put the touch feature on. If you hit it a little harder and hold it.
Down.
Oh, fancy, huh? Yeah,
Down.
that's pretty cool. Now, you can go in to the organ and search and find it, or if you happen to have eBank, right, Don? E0 will pull up that voice. Or you can search for it through in the menu of your sounds, okay? So the main voice is actually called Scat Dooba Dow, and I have the touch feature on, so
Down. Do that. Down.
and that's it. So, and it's really cool because you don't have to worry about where should I hold the notes long. Just play it and let your fingers do the work and let the instrument just do the Dow. All right? Now, if for some reason your model does not have specifically the Dooba Dow one, most models actually have a vocal a vocal scat of some sort on it. And originally, when I used to play the song, that's the sound I used to use. And it worked it just nicely. Did many concerts with Jerome on that. Now, again, this was the melody sound. The tempo's the same, of course. But let's talk about the style. The style is the same. But I made one little change in the accompaniment. Now, in the first setup, I said put on the altar style. Yes? Let me see some heads nodding. Okay. And that's still the case. However, for this one, to emphasize the vocal, I turned off Orchestra Plus and I turned on Drum Variation. Okay? So the background goes from this to this. Drums pick up a little bit, and the background horns are kind of gone, so it's just a nice simple. All right? So it's kind of fun. Now, I segue to, what's the next song? Little Brown Jug to
What
In the
were
Mood.
two things you turned off?
Say it again.
What were the two things you turned
The first setup I left on the altar style, so that didn't change. I turned off Orchestra Plus and I turned on Drum Variation. The basic setup, however, if you just want to keep it simple, is you got your big band at 138 and you got a scat sound on the upper keyboard. If you want to get a little detailed, do what I just said. Now, again, I'm going to have this all typed out in detail for basic and more of the detail instructions you could choose, and I will have it posted on our Patreon site and available to the world, okay? Now, let's talk about In the Mood, because that's the next song. Now, In the Mood, if you think about In the Mood, a lot of times when I hear In the Mood, I hear it like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's a little faster, isn't it? And Little Brown Jug, I'm playing it dun, 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 a little bit slower. So here's what I do to segue over to the next sound. First of all, I'm going to actually use the exact same setup on the keyboard, the saxophone with the harmony, which is swing band, rhythm preset. All right? I'm not going to have any altar style on, okay? But this goes back to, this is why you want to save presets, so that if you're doing this, all you have to do is go to the next one. But the trick is not so much saving the preset. The trick is how to smoothly go from a 138 tempo to a 180 tempo. Now, if 180 is too fast, you want to increase it a little bit to what's comfortable to you. But still, how do you go from a slow? When I do it in concert, I do it manually. I usually hold down a note or a chord, and then while I'm doing it, I'm holding down the tempo and I'm going up, and then I just do it manually. But I have presets programmed, so I'm going to do that. Here's the one thing that I do, so it doesn't sound choppy. Let's see if you can catch it. Ready? So I'll play the last few notes of Little Brown Jug.
Da
So did you notice what I did there? Oops, am I on? Yeah. Did you notice what I did there? I hit a no chord, so it turns off. Okay, it's a little easier sitting down, but when you do that, and then I hold the fill while I'm do that. And if I have my next preset programmed, you just go to it. Even if you do it manually, but if you have the preset program, you can just go to it and go. Sometimes I'll just go right into the song, or if I feel like I've goofed up, I'll do this. Watch. I'll stop intentionally, and a lot of people think I do it on purpose, but it's usually because I'm trying to get adjusted in the time, and I just stop it. I make it look like and people go, wow, that was so cool how you did that. It was an accident. All right. So.
Oops.
Oh, wrong button. You ever do that? Oops. So I'm going back to the in the mood setup, and what I have now is the same upper keyboard as I did in the first setup, which was swing band with rhythm preset, only I increased the tempo. Now I have it at 180. That's a little fast for most. You may want to increase it to a tempo that's comfortable. Sometimes people will keep it at 138 and play it, and that's okay too. All right? So you go and you go. Now if you play that style, okay, listen to the background. Even if you don't use the fill-in, listen to the background. It automatically does those slide trombone sounds like Glenn Miller did. Yeah, I know you're looking confused. Glenn Miller was a great big man artist that your mom and dad may have told you about. He was real popular, and they're like, who's Glenn Miller? Yeah, and it was a little bit before your time, I know, but. You hear the horns kind of sliding on their own? So if you use the swing band, you'll hear that in the background. All right? The fourth setup that I have, wherever A4 is on the music, all right, I use a brass section. And not just any brass section. It's a Ray Anthony brass section. Now, does anybody know who Ray Anthony is? Or was, should I say? If it is, we'll be very impressed. Well, if you know anything about Glenn Miller, you know that Ray Anthony actually was a member of the Glenn Miller Band, and from what I understand, he went on to have his own orchestra, and he had a unique sound because, you know, a lot of big band brass sections were known to be very bright. Naturally, that's big band, you know, big bright brassy sound. He had a little bit more of a smooth and mellow sound, and so what I did is on the fourth setup, wherever that's at in the music, I used the Ray Anthony brass section. Now, the hard way is you got to set up the right horns. You have to set up an ensemble brass sound. You have to put on the trumpet Louie and trombone Tommy together, and then you have to put on some strings to make it you have to put it on right harmony. You got to do a lot of stuff. If you happen to have big band category, now on the EX it's found under the category setups, and you scroll through big band. On some of the models that have big band right on the dashboard, if you push big band 0, guess what it does? What, Robert? What? Oh, everybody wants to know. That wasn't me. Don's giving me these crazy looks. I can see her over there saying he has lost it. Big band 0 will automatically set up. It comes up on the screen Ray A brass, but it represents the sound of Ray Anthony. And so you hear this. really simple. And then guess what I do on number 5? What, Robert? What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to tell you. What people really want to know. This is kind of like an optional sound. I just do it because sometimes in concert, I feel like I play the song. I'll do a little solo. Now, if you don't think you're good enough to do solo, I say put on this sound and then use the fake it button. Okay? Now, I'll play it manually and I'll play it with fake it so you see it both ways. But I just simply put a saxophone, and the saxophone that I use is a tenor breathy sax, or big band number 2 will give you a good saxophone. All right? Just find a good saxophone that you like. They're all over the place. And so I'll do something like this. Or fake it. And the trick to using a fake it if you're doing it is just play the chords you see in the song. Don't play the melody. Just make up a note or use the auto fake it, what have you.
Dawn, I want to fake it.
What's that?
Tell Dawn I want to fake it, organ.
Okay, Don, you heard that. Whoever said that. By the way, is Don Reed in the picture here? They're taking his organ right now as I'm looking out there right now. They're handling. Oh, they're lifting it up. Oh,
I'm here, Robert.
Oh, they dropped it 5 times, but it's a tough organ.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm keeping an eye on them. Okay, they're working. Oh, they're covering it up with blankets. Oh, then they're going to get the cellophane and all that. All right. Anyway, so that's number 5. Now, what I like to do sometimes is I'll end in the mood with the same saxophone setup. You can do it with the brass section. You do it however you want. Or you could just do it one time through with the 2 setups. But here's the thing. I'm not going to do what I did earlier on no chord and then switch to tempos. When I want to go to Moonlight Serenade, I actually will use the built-in ending and let it finish first, all right, before I go into the Moonlight Serenade setup. Okay, but before we do that, you were supposed to remind me if I didn't tell you what I did in the background. So let's go back to number 3 and 4. So on number 3 and 4, I told you it was the swing band. I told you I increased the tempo, and I told you what sounds I used. In the background, all I have is what's built in. No ultra style, no drum variation, just as it is. Okay? When I go to my 4th setup, and I gave you the Ray Anthony brass section, this background is the same. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So you don't have to do much changing there. But if you decide to do that saxophone on the 5th setup, the A5, and you want to do a solo, all I did is I threw in a drum variation in there just to kind of switch it up a little bit. The band changes a little bit, okay? Now, if you forget to do that or you don't do it, guess what? It's still going to sound great, okay? Now, let me tell you what I did on number 6, which is now the beginning of Moonlight Serenade. Now, you're very lucky that you got Moonlight Serenade because it is very difficult to find easy play music for Moonlight Serenade. And I just happen to have a copy. There's all sorts of rumors that last rumor I heard is the family that owns the catalog or something like that doesn't release it anymore or something. I'm not sure what the real news is, but I just know it's very hard to find. So you have it there, an easy play, and you have a couple setups. Now, this one's easy. First of all, I'm using a swing type of rhythm style, but specifically a style called Serenade. Well, go figure, Robert. I talk to myself all the time, I guess. So the style I used is one called Serenade. I've heard many people use autumn keys. I've heard people use the San Frans. You can use any slow style, dinner and dance, they'll all work nicely with it. But if you use the one called Serenade, the background does the little fill is like the muted trumpet sounds that kind of fill in between where the melody is playing, and you'll hear it in a minute. And if you use Serenade and you just simply use rhythm preset 0 or style setup 0 vintage if you have the EY or EX, okay? It'll automatically give you this sound. Ooh, did you hear that? You wanted to dance, right? Did you hear the da 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 da? So if you use that style and you can stay in time with the music, you don't have to do any fill-ins. That background will automatically fill in just like the original. Pretty cool, huh? Now, here's the thing. Let me back up to the end of In the Mood. Because if I'm doing In the Mood like this, you don't want to go abruptly to the next song and just try to slow it down. So here's what I do, real simple. I have my presets programmed, by the way. That's the beauty of having presets. These setups I'm giving you, the main thing is save them. Save it, save it, save it. So when you go back and play it, all you have to do is push the preset. That's how I can do this so fast. If I had to do it on the spot, all of these, I wouldn't be able to do it and do it properly. But here's what I do. Okay, and then I finish, and I use the ending built in. I wait for it to be completely done. Let it finish. Let it finish to the point where the rhythm even goes away. And then start the next song without an introduction. Whoops, change your preset first. Okay, here's what happens. This happens a lot. Some people will have the presets. We either give it to them or they set it up and they're finished. And then they don't wait for it to completely finish. And they think it's done. And then they go to the next preset and then it just starts playing. So you have
Robert,
to. Yes.
so you're saying that hit the intro ending for
When you're playing In the
In the
Mood.
Mood, and
Yeah.
then no intro on these Moonlight Serenade.
Exactly.
Okay.
But again, let the ending finish completely and you will know when it's done when the rhythm disappears.
Okay.
Okay, let me go back to that. Connie, you have a question?
Yeah, what ending are you using, 1 or 2?
1. But if
Okay,
you don't like 1, you can do 2, any 1. But 1 has got that In the Mood kind of a sound, but it
Okay.
doesn't matter. Just whatever one you choose, make sure that it finishes. So watch, one more
Right.
time. When that light goes away, then I'll push my next preset. Wait for the crowd to applause. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank
I
you.
see
Oh,
why you didn't
Thank
do
you,
that.
thank you. Oh, hold the applause. Oh, thank you. Oh, you go. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you. And then we start up. And then play through the song. Okay. Now, Moonlight Serenade, if you're using the original setup that's built in, I have just 3 simple setups, 6, 7, and 8. 6 is what I told you, all right?
Mhm.
The Serenade style, it automatically gives you a tempo of 74. It has a built-in clarinet with, the harmony just right. It plays one time through, and then when I repeat that verse again, I just add 8-foot strings to it.
Mm.
And it sounds like this. And it's just a nice little build, Okay? And then there's the part of the song that sounds like this. Okay? Well, I think you already know what the sound is. And that setup on number 8 is strictly a clarinet by itself
Oh.
for that part of the song. Okay? Now, here's a little secret for you. If you play Moonlight Serenade, remember those fills that are happening in the background? If you play it one time through, even if you change the sound and you go back and repeat it, those fills will do it again. So the trick is to just try to stay on time with that. Now, it won't sound terrible if you don't, but it may not fit exactly like the way the song was originally written, okay? And then when I go to that third part of the song, I set up the preset with just a clarinet sound. But I do something to the background. And that is, I simply turn off Orchestra Plus. This is A8, if you have it on your music. I put on clarinet only, turn off Orchestra Plus, and I turn on drum variation. Listen to the difference of the background. Here it is without that change. And here it is with the change. Gives you a nice little brush drum. I heard drummers were always had very clean houses because they had brush drums, and when they got done playing, they sweeped up their house a little bit while they were at it. That's not true. This is recording. I have to retract that video, a part of the video. A lot of drummers are going to get mad at me. What are you talking about? All right, and then I go, and sometimes I'll finish, and I'll go back and repeat the first verse, and I'll just go back to the first setting of that group, which is, or either one actually. So the 6 or 7 that has a Glenn Miller sound, and I just go back and I use that. Now, because I'm switching gears, this is another one of those when I'm done, I let it finish. Intro, ending 1, ending 1 is great because it sounds like the Moonlight Serenade ending. And then I go to my next song. Whoops, see, I didn't wait. See, I didn't wait for the rhythm to stop. See, I gotta take my own advice sometimes. And then I go to my next setup. My next setup is gonna be pretty simple. I'm gonna just give it to you all in one quick shot. Because these are designed for you to use them however you want to use them. When you hear me play it, these are the 5 sounds that I'm gonna use. The next song is All of Me. So what I did is I start off kind of a medium tempo song, Little Brown Jug, and then I bring it up with da 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 da, you know. Usually that's my medley, my song medley. But around this time of the year, I want to do something a little fancier. And then I come down and I slow it down to something, da 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 da, right? And then I pick it back up again. And I pick it back up with a song called All of Me. And I use a style called Frank and the Count. At a tempo of 175. If that doesn't work for you, pick a tempo that works for you. And I have 5 simple setups. One is a piano. All right. The second setup I use is B1 is piano with Frank and the Count at 175. B2 is a trombone. And not just any trombone. Tommy trombone. Do you know who Tommy is? Again, your mom and dad may have told you he kind of knew Glenn Miller too. In fact, the story I heard was Glenn Miller was having a rough time at a certain part of his musical career, and Tommy Dorsey was the #1 orchestra, and something happened where he was influenced and encouraged and got involved, and then a year later, Glenn Miller was considered the #1 orchestra. And back then, it didn't matter if you were 1 or 2. It was just musicians playing and what have you. Anyway, that's the short story. But so I go from that to this one. My third setup, I feature Harry. And then I even have a little bit of Benny. All right, now let me tell you where you can find those very quickly. You can just go through and scroll through. Some of you have a category preset called nostalgic. Okay, this is a good question for your PA. If I give you all the answers now, the PAs won't have anything to do. We got to put them to work too sometimes. So you have to say, hey, where is that nostalgic at? There's a category preset called nostalgic. And in the nostalgic category, I don't remember the number, but one of the presets has Tommy, Dorsey, and it'll actually have Tommy and Jimmy. One on the upper, but the Tommy Dorsey sound. Harry James is in that group. The preset won't say Harry James. It'll say Harry, and it'll say Benny, and Benny will be in that preset as well. And the piano's found anywhere. I mean, like if you go to the big band category, number 8, it'll give you the piano. So here's what I typically do for this group of setups. I go in, I put Frank in the count, find the rhythm that I'm using first, and I want a piano. So what I do is I find big band 8 and I get the piano, and then I save it on B1. Done. Then I go, Robert said to put on B2 trombone. So then I go to nostalgic category, and I find I think it's number 1, if I'm not mistaken. Dawn is nodding her head, yes. So on nostalgic 1, it gives you the Tommy on the upper keyboard. And then you put that on preset B2, save it. So it's saved. And then he said to use the Terry sound. Well, that's a nostalgic group number. I'm waiting for Don to push the button to tell everybody. Hint, hint, hint. Number 1, 2. What finger did she put up? Don't put up that finger, Don. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's a good thing we have the camera spotlighted on me, huh? So on the nostalgic category. Oh, so number 1 is Harry.
Number 1 is Harry, and number 2 is Tom.
Okay, so on nostalgic category 1, Harry's on top, and then Benny's on the lower right. And then on nostalgic number 2 is Tommy on the upper keyboard and Jimmy on the bottom. What does that leave? Okay, so I gave you the piano. I gave you Tommy. I gave you Harry. On number 3, Harry James, and then a clarinet on number 4. And then when I finish off the song, I usually finish off with this big, kind of just a nice big jazzy kind of an organ sound. This is commonly a sound that Dennis Aw uses. If some of you had a chance to hear Dennis Aw, he's a big fan of those big organ sounds. This is a classic Dennis Aw sound. Now, I'll tell you where to find one. It's also in the nostalgic category. Or you can do it yourself very easily, and I'll show you. It's real easy. But it sounds like this first. Nice and big, right? So on the nostalgic number 3, there's one called Awesome Organ. Awesome is kind of a play on words for Dennis Aw. I heard all they had to do was buy him a McDonald's hamburger for them to get that sound from him, and he was game. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Now, if you're like, I want to set it up myself, here's a little simple, quick and easy trip. Some of you have these flute tabs, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, all those. Here's a little trick. Turn on every single one. Put on 16, 8, and 4-foot strings. You have those yellow string tabs. Just put them all on. And then if you have a button called Jazz, it'll turn the lights green. So watch this. I don't know if you could see from on the screen there, but I'm going to put on every flute tab. and then the string tabs 16, 8, and 4, and then I'm going to turn on the jazz. It turns them green. It gives it like the Hammond sound, and then what you have is, okay, and that's it. And then sometimes I add a little sustain to the strings, but that's how I get that sound manually. Okay, that's
Robert,
how I, yes,
do I have a jazz button on the marquee?
yes, you do.
Okay,
The jazz button is found. Let's see. I got to remember where it's at now. It is. You have several organ types here. Usually it does it automatically. I know where it's at over there. I'll give that as a task to a student that has. I'll figure it out and let you know. It's
Okay.
in there. But you have 6 different types of organ categories. You can turn it to jazz, diapason, the Lowry sound,
I found that one.
mellow, smooth, and a few others. I know it's on here. I just haven't used it in a while. It's in there.
Okay,
I'll remember where it's at probably after the class. Okay, so 1 is Frank and the Count with piano. 2 is a trombone. 3 is a Harry James trumpet sound. B4 is clarinet. And then 5 is that big organ sound, and that's how I finish the song. This is another one of those when I'm done. Okay? When I'm finished with the song, I let the ending finish first. Oops, I'm gonna do some. And then before you do that, go let the ending finish first, then go to the next setup for the last song. Now the last song you can do, this is a perfect time of the year to do it, or you could just wait a whole nother year to play it again. But I have it on the tail end for a reason, so that if you do decide to play it round now, Auld Lang Syne obviously, you can play it. But if you don't, you can always just play the other songs. And it's real simple. The setup that I use is San Fran's at 70, tempo 70. And guess what, folks? That nostalgic category that I told you about, I used a lot of setups from that category. Nostalgic number 9 and 10 give you, okay? So on preset number 6 and 7, I pulled from nostalgic number 9 and 10. Number 9 gives us the Lombardo saxes. 10 gives you the Lombardo brass. And I use both of those when I play the song. Sometimes I'll play it all the way to one time through with the saxes, and the second time I'll play it with the brass, and then sometimes I'll finish with the saxes, or I intermix them however I want, however I feel like playing it. But what's unique about the Lombardo saxes, it's different than some of the other presets that have saxophones. You'll hear the vibrato just a little bit extra. Okay? So you'll hear that vibrato on the saxophones that gave a very unique sound. Now, this is, remember earlier I said I had the organ transposed down to B flat? This is the one time that I did use the transpose. And there's a reason for it. It was from my ears. I actually when I save these setups, I put the organ into E flat. I brought it up. And I'll tell you why. Because where I play the song, you notice I'm playing it here. If I bring it down to where it's standard, for me, it's a little low for my taste. Okay, I mean, it kind of works. So what I did is I transposed it up to E flat. I played it in this range. classes. Okay? And you can go back and forth on those. Now, before I play it all the way through, I'd ask for questions, but it could be a lot of questions. But I'm going to tell you all right now where you can find these setups. Now, here's what's going to happen. I know some of you are members of Patreon. Here's what's going to happen. I'm probably going to have the setups posted before the class video. Okay? Which is okay. But I want to get them done today and post them immediately. So it'll be up probably within a day. And here's what's going to happen. So let me, for those of you who aren't, let me just pull this up here. And let's pull this in. Let me go to Patreon. Some people still ask, what is that thing? We don't know. It's just a place where we like to put a lot of stuff after the fact. It's a place for you to go to find things afterwards and some bonus stuff. So occasionally I'll put some things on. I don't know if you've noticed, but occasionally I'll put things on there, like just a random post of a setup or what have you. So if you go to our website, the fastest way to get there is if you go to our website. Let me screen share this. There it is. If you go to our website, anywhere on the website, you'll see up at the top here, there's this little envelope, this little F for Facebook. That means our YouTube channel. And this thing that looks like a circle with a line, kind of like a letter P. If you click on that P, it'll automatically bring you to our Patreon page. Okay, it's a separate page that allows everything we do. Look at that happy face. Now, Don, I have to tell you, let me just tell you right now, when I post all of your classes or all of them, and I use the YouTube to tie it in, it gives me 3 options of screenshots. And I always pick the best of the 3. Sometimes I say, maybe I ought to pick this one. And I think, if Dawn knows that I purposely chose this one, she might get mad. Like it'll catch her right in a moment where she looks like she's angry. And I'm thinking, maybe I should use that as the cover. And I go, no. But somehow it knows how to pick all those happy faces of hers. Anyway, so if you go to Patreon, you'll see. Now, I'm a patron, so I see everything. If you're not a patron, sometimes it'll have it covered and it'll say click to become a patron to unlock. But occasionally what'll happen is, like Don and Joni, they'll put these little they'll have me attach these things where you can there's introductions for certain songs and setups, and if you open it, it'll give you the option to that. So what'll happen is I'm going to post the setups on there, and you can go on and just click on it and download, and I'm going to have everything that I told you today in detail. Okay? Now, the other thing I'm going to have are the presets. So if some of you have learned how to do that, I actually have all of the presets pre-programmed. So if you know how to download them, and I usually have instructions, you can download them and put them on your USB. Now, the Tucson people are lucky because they can just say, here, give me a stick, and they can get all the presets. So keep that in mind. Now, while I'm on this, before I play this, just want to remind you, I know some of you know this guy, Marco Mendez. We've got a few days, how many days? 1, 2, 3 days left. Marco, I'm going to tell you this. Marco typically, when he sells USBs with his setups and arrangements and recordings, the typical standard for over the years was a recording and an arrangement for a song, $10 each. So that's why when you see that it says $100 crossed off, that's why this is such great value. I got with Marco and I said, hey, listen, I want to do something special for our customers. I know you usually charge $10 a song and an arrangement and record the song and give the setups and what have you. But for our customers, I wanted you to offer something. So this is what he did. Normally, this would cost $100 to buy. So if you have a USB organ and it says what models are compatible, the A series, Yamaha, Genos, Clavino for you Yamaha people out there, almost all EY A series. If you just scan that, or if you click on the button here, it'll automatically bring you to a page to order, and he gets the orders daily, and he'll send out a USB to you right away. Okay? And last but not least, I'm going to get the organ set up here to finish the song, and I got to play it all the way through so you could hear what you're going to sound like if you have the setups. Last but not least, as you know, we are how many days away before the end of the year? Today's Wednesday. Thursday, I heard Jerome yelling in the background.
I think it's 4.
You think it's 4? Well, Saturday is the last day of the Saturday is the last day of the year.
Right.
So that's all rest of today, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 3.5 days left. And as you know, we've been having the biggest year-end inventory reduction sale ever in the history of Fletcher Music Centers. Let's see if I got this. Oh, here it is. I just want to show the flyer because I was so proud of my work. But this is a good time. If you've been thinking, we have up to 75% off. Now, it's not 75% off on everything, so I see the gleam in her eye. Oh, it's up to. So there's a lot of models that are 75%. There are some that are 50, and there are 60. None that are lower than 40%. I will tell you that. So call your PA. We have huge trade values. No reasonable offer will be refused. Now, Fred, I want you to see. It says no reasonable. I said that to somebody, and they said, "Oh, I'll give you $1," and I had to remind them, reasonable. Reasonable. We take anything on trade that doesn't eat. So, ladies, you can't trade your husbands in. She got upset here. He eats a lot. I've seen him eat at our potlucks and parties. Yeah. And we have special financing. So see your PA for details. This is how we keep the Fletcher Music Club alive and going strong by selling organs, folks. So with that said, I'm going to finish off, and I'm going to play. I'm not going to use the music, but I'm going to, hopefully I can play it without the music. It's in my iPad somewhere. So let's see how well I do this by memory. Okay. So here we go from the beginning.
Jesus. I mean, this is Jerome.
All right, let me mute Jerome there, so I can
Who?
mute Jerome. All right, here, take 2. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, the crowd, just stop it, stop it.
Awesome. Very good.
Well, that was a lot of music and a lot of setups. I figured, as Don always says, if you can walk away with one thing, but I think I gave you a lot of things to walk away. So I hope you took good notes. But I'll have them all typed out for you, and I'll post them, okay? And again, if you check the email that I sent out today reminding everybody of the class, there's a little link in there to download the music. If for some reason you were not able to, send me an email direct, okay? It's rroman@fletchermusic.com, okay? rroman@fletchermusic.com, and we'll get you the music. The file is too large for me to upload it through the email, so I had to do it via a link, all right? Well, with that said, between Don's class and this class, boy, hopefully we've filled your brains with a lot of knowledge. We're going to have a pop quiz on Friday in Don's class. And if you get all the answers right, we'll give you, we're thinking about giving away another Lowry organ of your choice if you get all the answers. Now, I didn't say we were going to. I said we're thinking about it. Okay. I'll let you know on Friday. If I show up, if I'm not there Friday, then you know I've changed my mind. And then if I decide to give away the organ, then you have to pay the delivery fee, which is a standard fee of $20,000 plus. But we'll throw in the organ free. Or we could just skip all that and say, just buy one, right? I like that better. Anyway, if I don't see you before Saturday for any reason, I think Don will see some of you. Happy New Year. Hope the New Year starts off great for you. And thank you for all that you do. all you've done, and I'll thank you in advance for all you will do. All right? So stay safe, keep playing music, and as always, mwah, everybody.
Nice
Thank you.
concert, Robert.
Very good job, Robert.